Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel F1 Aerodynamicist. Today we're going to do a debrief on the Mexican Grand Prix. Nothing much happened, but here are the 4 key takeaways from this Grand Prix. Let's get it rolling then. So let's jump on to the first takeaway, that is the Mercedes strategist can also make mistakes. So, we take the piss on Ferrari of kind of calling bluffs and making mistakes on the strategy, but this is Formula One and it's an ultra competitive environment. And you saw that the Mercedes strategists can also make mistakes and they're just human at the end of the day. And Lewis Hamilton at the end of the race stated that probably we did not have the strategy quite right today. Let's jump into what went wrong and why did it go wrong. So on lap 28, Max Verstappen came onto the radio and said, "My left front tires are dead." This kind of triggered Red Bull to do a pit stop as quickly as possible. And now Mercedes had a choice, right? Everybody expected Mercedes to go long and then kind of fit on a soft tire or even a harder tire. Who knew? Depending on what data they would gather. But at this point, Lewis Hamilton comes onto the radio and says, "My tires are okay, mate." And yet Mercedes pit him on lap 30. Why? This was a shock for everybody, even for people watching, people who were broadcasting, the commentators. And there were two reasons. One was because they did not want to fall behind Checo so that they would have to overtake Checo and they would lose time in that. And you have to keep in mind that the Red Bull is really fast onto the straights. And the second reason was something in their tire performance metrics told them that there would be a drop off onto the tire performance. Maybe they had seen the way Max's soft tires had degraded and lost lap time. Maybe they were predicting something like that because they were really convinced by it. Even when Russell asked them about a medium soft strategy, they said no. So they were really convinced that the hard was the tire to put on and that the mediums would drop off. And at this point, you have to really give credit to Red Bull and Max Verstappen because Red Bull understood that it was not a wear limited race. They came onto the radio and told Max that the soft stints were absolutely not wear limited and it was a graining limited race. And they gave him specific instructions on how to drive around to reduce graining and to keep the energy onto the tire. And that is exactly what Max did. He drove according to what would result in minimum graining of the tire. You have to give credit to that. That was some great driving, even though it made the race really boring. Let's get on to the second point. That is Daniel Ricciardo licked the stamp and sent it, literally. I know that probably you guys would say that he had a big tire delta and obviously he would overtake them, but he drove a brilliant medium stint where he was not really doing much. He didn't really get too much coverage, but McLaren really understood the tire wear better than anybody in this race. I would say the best, just in front of Red Bull in terms of understanding what was needed in terms of tire wear and tire performance and extracting the maximum out of the tires this weekend. And it was really nice to see him happy at the end of the day during the interviews where he said, "I could really lean onto the car and put it where I want, and I loved having an attacking race." Good one, Daniel. Let's jump on to the third point, that is the Ferrari engine struggles. In my previous video, I kind of highlighted the importance of the turbocharger in Mexico, and that is exactly what Ferrari struggled with. So they had to turn down their engine in a way to protect their turbocharger. So they had reliability issues with respect to the turbocharger, and it was a disappointing weekend for the Ferrari. Both Sainz and Leclerc looked really downbeat, and Leclerc ended up saying that they were too fast for the cars behind and they were too slow for the cars in front, and they were literally nowhere. And you have to be honest, they've not taken the chances this year when they've come, so they can't complain too much about it, can they? But the interesting point is the engines cannot be changed going forward, and it wasn't really a reliability issue, was it? So I'm really interested in seeing if this becomes a limitation of the Ferrari engine until 2026, until the regulations change and they can do something about it. It'll be interesting to see. And the fourth takeaway, which is the big takeaway actually, in my opinion, the biggest of all the three, is that the Mercedes upgrades seem to be working. Yes, the upgrades they bought in US seem to be working in the US and in Mexico, because this is the second consecutive race where they are the second fastest team, and they've been at some points in the race as competitive as Red Bull, and really just one or two upgrades behind. A little bit too late, I have to say, but just one or two upgrades behind in terms of performance. And if you think about where they started to where they've come, it is kind of crazy that they've made so much ground on Red Bull. Although Red Bull stopped developing long time ago because of the budget restrictions. So their front wing end plate and their rear wing end plate upgrades have worked, and also their floor fences and the floor edge and the entire flow philosophy that they've been trying to develop around with this zero side pod concept seems to be going in a direction that finally they've been able to extract performance out of it. So it'll be interesting to see in the last two races if Mercedes is the closest competitor to Red Bull. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So these were my 4 takeaways of the Mexican Grand Prix. If you've liked this video, give me a like, and if you like content related to Formula 1 aerodynamics, and how to make a career in Formula 1, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your time, and thank you for watching.